Hello and welcome to Pickle's Garage. Today we're working on the 1979 GMC 3500, specifically the ignition switch. So when these are going bad, typically you'll go to turn the key and just nothing will happen. And so you might think it's a bad starter, dead battery or something like that, but if you replaced all those items, then it could very well be this ignition switch. It's communicating between you turning it and everything downstream as well. So if it's got corrosion or if it's broken, then you won't be able to start your vehicle, or you might be able to start it sometimes and other times you won't be able to. That could be related to this. So you can find these pretty readily on, Parts Geek, Rock Auto, things like that. This is standard, and this is some of the information there to help find it. So to start off, anytime we work with anything electronic, we're going to go ahead and remove the negative side just so we can avoid some shocks here, and then from there we're going to come over here and there's going to be this cotter pin for the linkage for the gear shift. We're going to go ahead and remove that as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with the cotter pin. So if you have some sort of like screwdriver or anything, you just have to get it into that loop here, and then it's going to be easier with two hands, but essentially you're just pushing this direction and pulling it out this way, and then this will fall backwards. So now with that pin removed, like I said, it just falls back. We'll just rest it there for now. Okay, please excuse my lavish interior. That's what I was working on before I started having these gremlins, but we're going to go ahead and drop the column. You can actually, if you reach your hand up around in this location, you can actually touch it up here, but there's not enough room to work, so you do need to drop the column. Easy enough. You just have to remove these screws, which is just this plastic plate, and then you're gonna go ahead and work on this metal plate. The other thing is you're gonna want the steering wheel unlocked. That way you can kind of maneuver it a little bit. And so all you have to do is, again, now that you've disconnected the negative battery, now like your car will start anyways if you have the issues that I have, but you're just gonna put it in the unlock position and you're just gonna let it sit there. Okay, so now the steering wheel moves freely, and we're gonna remove these first and then I'll reconnect on the next part. Okay, so now that that plate is removed, once again we're going to move down to these other Phillips screws. Boom and boom. Let's disconnect those real quick. Alright, now that we have our plate off here, we're going to go ahead and remove the cable for our indicator, which is right over here on this side. You'll see when you rotate down the gear shift, which is because you have it unlocked here, you'll get more access to it, but it's just that Phillips screw real quick. So we'll go ahead and get that removed, set it aside so we don't break anything, and then now you can go ahead and drop the rest of the column. You're going to do that by coming up, and you'll see that there's a nut right here, and then equally on the other side right there, and those are 5/8, so you just need a little extension, and then that will drop the rest of our column. So now that everything is removed, your whole column will come down nice and easy. You just want to make sure that you don't pull any wires or anything like that, but that box right back there, right at the top of your screen, that is what we were removing. So nice and dirty, nice and filthy, so this should be good to go ahead and replace this. But you're going to see a couple bolts in the back, but first we're going to go ahead and disconnect the plugs, so I'll show you that here in a moment. So we are underneath the dash here, looking straight up. You'll see that there is this clear whitish plug here with the pink, yellow, black, everything. So that has a tab at the very top. I'll see if I can get my hand up under here. So to where my finger is right here. So there's a tab right here that you have to press down and pull it out. And then there's another black plug right next to it. You can kind of see at the top left-hand screen. So there's not a lot of room just because we have this brake pedal here. So I'm going to go ahead and try and remove it from the column itself, just because I think I'll have enough leash. So let me go ahead and find the sizes for you, but we're going to go ahead and take it off and then get the plugs off. Okay, so we should have plenty of room on this side, but going up and in, you'll see that's one of them, and then further down is the second one. And so that is 5/16, and then if you can get like a smaller ratchet, it just makes it a little easier, especially one that angles. Okay, so now that it's disconnected, you'll see that it will raise up a little bit. There is going to be this right here. Don't do anything with it, just kind of leave it where it's at, and then we'll examine where the position on this one is and match that with our new one. So we have enough room here to pull this aside, so I'm going to pull it down and then you'll see me disconnect. Alright, so back underneath, and you're going to see that plastic clear plug and the black plug like I mentioned. I don't know if I'll be able to show the tab too much, but there's a tab on the opposite side of this. Pinch it, pull back, and then we'll move on to the black one. And there you go, now it's out. So the hardest part honestly was just the backs of these plugs. You just have to get them around these three. So there's three you have to do, 1, 2, 3, and they just get hooked onto this. So if you can kind of turn it and then get a sort of screwdriver under this part and then just pull this outward, then it helps a lot. But it's out, which is great. Note the position that you took it out in, of course, and then note the position of this. So looks like it's a little corroded on certain points, which would cause sort of the issues that I might be experiencing. So I am optimistic that this is my issue, but let's go ahead and throw the new one on and confirm from there. Okay, so you have your old one and your new one side by side, but like I mentioned, you have this hole right here, and then you have that hole right there. So you need to move it down. So how do you do that? Well, you're just going to basically take like a screwdriver like this, and then you're gonna slide it through and then pull it. So let me show you that real quick. Just like that. So you just pull it down, and we'll compare it, and we're good to go. Okay, so now to replace, the small square is gonna go towards the bigger clear plastic. So it's gonna connect like this. And you're gonna wanna make sure you put that rod in that hole that you moved. So, see the rod? It needs to go into the hole, which I got perfectly the first time and now I'm gonna struggle with. But that rod goes in that hole that you moved. And from here it's just reverse order. So with the switch itself with that rod, these screws will actually locate themselves pretty easily, just because it'll be essentially exactly where the old one was. We're gonna retighten up those, and then we'll lift our column back up. We're gonna reconnect our Prindle here. Gear shift. If you rotate this down, then you should get a good vantage on it, because this will all rotate. And then we're going to lift it back up, replace our 2 bolts here, and then we're going to put our cover back on. We'll do the metal first, then the plastic, and then we're gonna go back and make sure that we reconnect our gear shift lever on the inside of the bay. So let me go ahead and put this all back together, and then we'll go from there. Also, as a reminder, when you're putting this back on, just check to make sure everything lines up as you want it. That way you don't put everything back and it's all off. So just put it in a gear that you can easily find, like neutral, just because like obviously if you go from park to reverse, you can easily just push it down and drop it into neutral, and just make sure that it lines up the way you want. So back in the engine bay, I went ahead and replaced the old cotter pin with a new one, but like I said, just presses right back into place, slide your cotter pin in, and we are good to start it. So we're back to cranking, which is great. So with something like an ignition switch going out, the best way to look at it is it's just relaying signal. And so I would, if you're having issues with any sort of like cranking, I would check to make sure that your battery is good first off, just because, you know, maybe your lights are turning on. It might not have enough of the voltage to actually start the engine. So that's usually your most common issue. If you are turning it and you're hearing noises from the starter, but just maybe it's not getting enough power, or it's clicking but it's not doing anything, then that would lead me more to the starter being the issue. The other good thing is, cleaning up your electric connections, checking fuses, making sure that you have power to the distributor. My specific issue is, I went to kind of crank it and sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. So again, just because it's the one relaying the signal, that would be something that's more related to that portion of it. So I'm glad to see that it looks like things are working. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Feel free to like and subscribe.